I refused to let my Karen neighbor use my pool after she demanded I follow her pool rules. So this all started last summer when I moved into my new house. The place was perfect, except for one thing. My next-door neighbor, Rachel. Within 3 days of moving in, she was already at my door with a clipboard and a fake smile, telling me about all the neighborhood standards I needed to follow. I figured she was just being friendly, but then she handed me this typed-up list of rules. No loud music after 8 p.m., no barbecuing on weekdays, and my personal favorite, no pool parties without 48 hours notice to surrounding neighbors. The kicker, I hadn't even finished unpacking yet, and she somehow already knew I had a pool. For the first few weeks, I tried to be the good neighbor. I kept my music down, grilled only on weekends, and even gave her a heads up when my cousin came over for a swim. But Rachel kept pushing. She'd lean over the fence during my morning coffee and comment on how my grass was getting a bit long, or how my garbage cans were positioned incorrectly. The breaking point came on a Saturday in July. I was having a small pool party for my coworker's birthday, maybe 8 people total. We were being respectful. Music wasn't even that loud, and it was only 3 p.m. That's when Rachel marched over in her bathrobe and slippers. She didn't knock. She just walked through my side gate like she owned the place and stood at the edge of my pool deck. Everyone stopped talking and stared at her. She cleared her throat and announced that we were violating multiple noise ordinances and that she was calling the police. If we didn't shut it down immediately, my coworker, Jake, who's usually pretty chill, started laughing. He thought she was joking. That made Rachel's face turn bright red. She pointed her finger at me and said, I was being a disrespectful neighbor and that she had every right to enjoy her backyard in peace. I told her politely that it was the middle of the afternoon on a weekend and we weren't breaking any actual laws. That's when she dropped the bomb. She said if I wanted to keep living in this neighborhood peacefully, I needed to follow her rules for pool usage. She pulled out another laminated list from her bathroom pocket. Pool hours, 10 a.m. to 6 o'clock p.m. Only. No more than 4 people at a time. No inflatables or pool toys that could go over the fence. No diving or cannonballs. And here's the best part. She wanted me to text her whenever I planned to use my own pool so she could close her windows if needed. Everyone at the party was just staring with their mouths open. Jake whispered, "Is she serious right now?" Loud enough for everyone to hear. Rachel heard him and snapped that she wasn't leaving until I agreed to her terms. I looked at this woman, standing in my backyard in her bathrobe, holding a laminated list of rules from my own pool, and something inside me just broke. I told her she had exactly 10 seconds to get off my property before I called the actual police for trespassing. She laughed and said, I wouldn't dare. So I pulled up my phone and started dialing. She immediately backtracked and said she was just trying to be neighborly and that maybe we could work something out. That's when she suggested that maybe she could use my pool sometimes to, as a neighborly compromise. She said her grandkids were visiting next month, and it would be so nice if they could swim while she watched from my deck. But, of course, everyone would need to follow her pool safety rules. I looked at her and said, absolutely not. She got this shocked expression like I just slapped her. She asked, why not? And I told her that after demanding I follow her made-up rules for my own pool, she had some serious nerve asking to use it. She started getting loud, saying I was being petty and unreasonable. My guests were getting uncomfortable, so I told Rachel one more time to leave or I was calling the cops. She huffed and said fine, but this wasn't over. For the rest of the summer, she made my life hell. She'd call the city about every little thing. My grass being a 4 and 2 long, my garbage cans being out 30 minutes early, claiming my pool pump was too loud at night. Every complaint got dismissed, but it was still annoying. Story 2, I've always been an early riser. I like the quiet hours before dawn when the world hasn't fully woken up and you can still hear your own thoughts. The hum of the refrigerator, the slow drip of the coffee machine, the dog snoring softly in the corner. But that morning, the silence was shattered. It was 5:02 a.m. when I heard the knock. Not a timid tap, a steady, deliberate knock, like someone who knew exactly what they were doing. I frowned, put my mug down, and walked to the door. Through the peephole, I saw him. Mark, my neighbor, retired Army, keeps to himself. The kind of guy who sharpens his lawn tools twice a month and waves with 2 fingers. We weren't close. Friendly enough, But this wasn't normal. I opened the door. He didn't smile, didn't even say good morning, just looked at me with eyes that were unusually alert, scanning my face like he was making a judgment call. "Don't go to work today," he said, just like that. No hello, no explanation, no context. I blinked. "What?" He leaned in slightly, his voice low, serious. "I need you to trust me. Just today, don't go in." Now I work downtown. Office job, stable, predictable, the kind of place where nothing ever happens. And if you're not in by 9 o'clock, someone notices. I laughed a little, confused. "Mark, is this a joke?" He didn't blink, his jaw tensed. "Just stay home, call out sick, take a mental health day, whatever, but don't go in today." Then he turned and walked away. Just like that, no explanation, no further warning. I stood there on my porch, still barefoot, hearts starting to race for reasons I couldn't explain. My golden retriever, Duke, nudged the door behind me, sensing something strange, too, and that's when I realized Mark was wearing the same clothes from yesterday. His boots were muddy, his hands were shaking just a little. He'd been up all night. I shut the door and locked it a little faster than usual. I didn't go to work. I sat on the edge of my bed for a while, trying to brush off the unease like sleep dust, but it stuck to me. That look in Mark's eyes, that voice, flat, firm, like it was delivering orders, not a suggestion. I called in around 7:30. "Hey, it's me. Not feeling great this morning. Going to take a sick day." The receptionist barely cared. "Okay, feel better," she said before clicking off. "Just another sick call on just another weekday." I made a second cup of coffee, tried to read, tried to watch the news. Nothing stuck. My thoughts kept circling back. Why would Mark knock at 5 o'clock a.m. today? I stepped outside a little before 9, pretending I needed air, but really, I just wanted to look. His blinds were drawn. No car in the driveway. It was eerily quiet. And then, I noticed something. Down the block, parked just outside the Smith's old place, was a black SUV, windows tinted, idle engine humming. I'd never seen it before. It didn't belong to anyone on our street. I watched it for a few minutes. No one got in, no one got out. Then it drove away, slow, too slow. Noticed me watching. I ducked back inside. I kept glancing at the clock. 10:14, 10:27, 10:41. Around 11:08, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Anna, a coworker. Just one sentence. "Hey, were you in the building when they evacuated?" Evacuated? I froze. My fingers tapped back quickly. What happened? A pause, then 3 dots. Typing, big security scare or something. FBI was there, whole floor cleared out. No details yet. My heartbeat slammed into my chest. Security scare, FBI. I turned on the TV. Nothing. I opened Twitter. Just noise. But something had happened, something big, and Mark knew. I walked over to the window, looked out across the street. Still no sign of him. But the air felt different now. Charged, electric, like a storm was coming. And I had no umbrella, no shelter, just a neighbor's warning and a gnawing sense in my gut. Something was very, very wrong. It was around 12:32 p.m. when I saw him. Tall, late 50s maybe, wearing a gray trench coat that didn't quite match the weather. A little too warm for November. He stood at the end of my street, motionless, like he was waiting for a signal or a door to open. At first, I thought he might be a real estate guy, maybe looking at the Hamiltons' old place that's been sitting empty for months. But something about him didn't fit. He wasn't holding a clipboard. He wasn't looking at houses. He was looking at me. I was standing behind my curtain, barely parting the edge to peek through, but he knew. He tilted his head slightly, just enough to send that cold shot of recognition through my spine. I let the curtain fall, backed away from the window, and suddenly the whole house felt too exposed, too vulnerable. I called Mark straight to voicemail. I didn't leave a message. I tried his landline. Nothing. Tried his wife's number from an old neighborhood list. Disconnected, I was on my own. I went into the garage and grabbed the crowbar I use for minor housework. Something, anything to hold. Just having weight in my hand made me breathe steadier. I don't scare easy. I was raised on a farm, broke up fights in high school, spent 6 years working night security during college. But this was different, because nothing had happened yet. And that was the worst part. Just before 1 p.m., the news broke online. FBI investigating potential threat at downtown office complex. Evacuations underway. No names, no motives, no suspects. But I knew one thing. That was my building, my floor. And if I hadn't listened to Mark, if I just brushed him off like a crazy old man, I would have been sitting at my desk when it all unfolded. I sat down on the edge of my couch, tried to calm the racing thoughts. And that's when I noticed something new taped to the inside of my front door. Just beneath the peephole was a yellow sticky note I hadn't put there. 4 words written in tight all-cap handwriting. Don't open for anyone. My breath caught. The world outside kept spinning. But inside, time froze because someone had been in my house and I hadn't heard a sound. I stood in front of the sticky note on the door for what felt like an hour. I hadn't written it. No one else had a key, and the locks showed no signs of forced entry. But someone had been inside, and they'd left a warning. I searched the house. Every closet, every corner, bathroom, garage, behind the washer, nothing. No sign of entry. But something wasn't right. Something had been moved in the hallway. A picture frame that usually sat flush against the wall was tilted, just barely, and the attic door above it unlatched. Now, I hadn't been up there in years. The pull string hung low, still swaying. I grabbed a flashlight, my heart pounding like it was trying to warn the rest of me. I climbed up slowly, one creaky step at a time. The air up there was thick. Dust danced in the flashlight beam like ghosts. At first, I didn't see anything, just boxers, old baby clothes, a broken lamp, college textbooks I never donated. Then I noticed it, a shoebox, dead center in the attic. Not old like the rest of the stuff. This one was clean, almost deliberately placed. I opened it. Inside were photographs. Not of me, not of Mark, but of my office building, taken from strange angles. Some zoomed in on license plates. One of the front door keypad, another showed a USB drive plugged into a company laptop. My boss's, I think, and at the bottom of the box, wrapped in wax paper, was a small burner phone. It was on no passcode, just one message saved in drafts. If anything happens to me, start with these names. I opened the message. 5 names. All people I'd seen at company parties, but not employees, vendors, consultants. The kind of folks who hovered around contracts and shook hands, but never made eye contact for too long. And I realized Mark had been watching something for a long time. And now, for whatever reason, he'd pulled me into it. I climbed down from the attic, gripping the burner phone like it was a live grenade. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't leave the house. I didn't answer my phone, not even when Anna called again, saying our company issued a sudden week-long mandatory remote policy with no explanation. Something big was happening, and I was holding a piece of it in my hands. By the next morning, I hadn't slept in 32 hours. The sticky note on the door, the man in the gray coat, the USB photos, and that draft message from the burner phone with 5 names that meant more than I understood. It was all circling in my mind like a storm with no center dot. Then, at exactly 11:57 a.m., my phone buzzed, a restricted number. I hesitated, then answered, "Is this Mr. James Taylor speaking?" "Mr. Taylor, this is Agent Calloway with the FBI's Cybercrime Division. I'm calling in reference to Mark Bennett." I felt every muscle in my body tense. "Is he okay?" The line was silent. "Mr. Taylor, I'm sorry to inform you, Mark Bennett passed away late last night. His body was found in a vehicle registered under a false name. Cause of death is under investigation, but the scene was staged to appear like a car accident. We do not believe it was an accident." And I didn't speak. Couldn't, not until he continued. "Mr. Bennett left your contact details with a private attorney. He also left behind a file time-stamped and secured that points directly to a corporate data scheme connected to your company. Financial records, surveillance footage, bribery trails, it's extensive. He wanted to protect you." The words landed like bricks. "We understand you received a burner phone. Do not turn it on again. We have teams en route. Until then, lock your doors. Do not speak to anyone. And if anyone contacts you claiming to be law enforcement, request a badge ID and call us back directly. 12 noon on the dot." There was a knock on my door. Firm, rhythmic, not like a neighbor, not like a package delivery. I looked through the peephole. The man in the gray coat, he He was holding something. A badge? I didn't open the door. Instead, I walked to the back room, opened the safe Mark helped me install last year, and placed the burner phone inside, locking it tight. The knock came again, 3 times, then silence. When I returned to the front of the house, he was gone. Vanished. No tire marks, no footsteps, like he'd evaporated into the wind. That night, the news finally broke. FBI raids on 5 properties, multiple arrests, high-level executives taken into custody. The headline didn't name my company, just called it a major player in enterprise software consulting. But I knew Mark had been the whistleblower, and I had been the only one he trusted to keep the spark alive. If he didn't make it, it's been a year now. I've moved, changed jobs, but every time I hear a knock on the door, every time I see a man in a gray coat on a rainy day, I remember the one morning I didn't go to work. Because a man I hadn't spoken to in 6 months saved my life with just 6 words. Don't go to work today. Trust me, and at noon, when the building I should have been in was evacuated. When the names on that burner phone were read in court, when the world shifted under my feet, I finally understood why they never found his body. Mark Bennett, the man I'd known since college, the neighbor who quietly watched my lawn grow tall and my trash bins get taken out late, disappeared without a trace. The car was a rental. The fake name was never connected to any official documents. The location where they found him had no cameras, no witnesses, no footprints beyond his own. It was like the world erased him deliberately. The FBI never released details to the press. The files he'd compiled, the ones on that burner phone, led to multiple convictions. But his name was never mentioned publicly. I asked once why the agent paused, then simply said, "Heroes don't always get headlines. Sometimes they just get remembered by the people they saved." I drive past his old house sometimes. The curtains are different now. Someone else lives there. They don't wave, but every now and then, especially when the air turns crisp and quiet, I look toward the porch, and I swear, just for a second, I see a man standing there. Hands in pockets, hooded sweatshirt, watching the street like it owes him nothing. And I remember what he said. "Don't go to work today. Just trust me." I did. And it changed everything. Was this revenge perfectly justified, or should the storm have raged harder? Drop your verdict below.